Commissioner Feldheim will lead us in the pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. First item on the agenda is to approve our agenda.
Move. Second.
Motion by Gage, second by Dennert. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Next up, we have public comment. Is there anyone here to address the Brown County Commission this morning on any topic that isn't on the agenda?
Yeah, I'd like to say a little bit here. Thanks again, guys, for the time. Sorry, we gotta kind of keep rehashing this topic, but the last week I had kind of an incident out there. I just want to make you guys kind of aware of what's happening. So last Wednesday, I had left the farm and went out to plant some alfalfa for a neighbor. And when I was gone, the wife called and was like, "Were you expecting anybody out here or anything?" I said, "No, what are you talking about?" Because she's usually not home. She's recovered from surgery, so she happens to be home. She was in the shower and someone opened the door and yelled in the house, which is kind of an odd thing. And then the time she got out, got down and went and seen what they were doing, they went over to my shop and opened the door there, go inside, come back, and then they went up to the field and started setting this tripod up. So we'll go up there and just see who it is, you know. I mean, I don't know if it's a news thing or what it is. We went up there, and here they said it was Summit, and they were there to survey, and it was okay. They had permission to go. And at that time, she had me on the phone, and I heard him say that it was Summit. I said, well, if it's Summit, it sounds like the sheriff should be involved. And that's all I said. I hung the phone up. I had to turn around. And then they packed their stuff up and left. Well, I finished planting, and I had to get back home and get some information for a guy by 3. I called her at 2:30, and I said, at 3 o'clock, you call me no matter where I'm at. You got to come get me. I have to get this stuff to get to him by 3:30. Well, 10 minutes later, she calls again. I'm like, well, now what, you know? And she goes, well, the detective just left the farm here. I said, the detective? Like, what are you talking about? She goes, well, some of the people turned in that I threatened them. All right. Seems very odd, like I wasn't even around the farm or anything like that. It's 12, 13 miles away. So I got in touch with the detective the next day, and we finally met up on Friday, and we talked to him. He came to the farm, and he goes, well, what do you want to talk about? And I said, what do you want to talk about? You came out to see me, remember? And he goes, oh, yeah, about that. Yeah, then people at Summit said I threatened to kill him. So now I have this happening for this, which I wasn't even around. Like, this is totally made up. I told the detective, you want, I mean, the cell phone, you can listen. I don't know if you can listen back to conversations or not. I don't know what's recorded. But at the same time, that happened, and they're accusing me of this. Well, I got them on video going into my shop, which has nothing to do with the pipeline. It's not in that quarter, nothing like that. And they opened my house door and yelled in there, didn't just knock on the door and leave like everybody else does. So now I got this big state's attorney thing waiting to see if they're going to press charges on me. Just kind of letting you guys know that that's what this crew is doing. I'm sure I'm I feel I'm totally targeted. I've been in here plenty and kind of been opposed to this the entire time. I just kind of like to make you guys aware of what is happening out there in the country, and they have now started serving the condemnation papers around to everybody, and really a pleasant company to be just dealing with all around. And like I said, I never talked to these guys. I know the pickup was some random pickup with Louisiana license plates. I mean, you just see kind of stuff like that pull in and look at your farm or drive through stuff and open the doors and all that's kind of, just gets to be kind of questionable. I feel the opening doors and going into stuff is a bit over the line, trespassing, breaking and entering, if you ask me. So I just wanted to tell that side, my story, is now, whatever gonna happen with the state's attorney decides, I guess, with both of these cases, so just keeping you aware and if you guys just stay strong against this company. If not, nothing pleasant to deal with, so. I guess that's kinda all I had.
All right.
Thanks for your time, guys.
Thank you very much. Anyone else?
Yeah, I just wanna thank you guys for passing the setback ordinance. Hopefully we keep this moratorium on deals like this going on around the county, so just wanted to mention that. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you. Any other comments? In person, out there online, or the phone? Thank you. Seeing none, we will move on. Next up, first reading of ordinance number 244.
Ordinance 244, an ordinance amending Title IV, second revision, Brown County Ordinance as amended to rezone certain described properties, filed by Levi Jensen, changing from Ag Preservation District to Mini Ag District.
Is there anyone here to speak to ordinance 244? This is first reading. Any comments on ordinance 244? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to approve first reading.
Move. Second.
Motion by Feldheim, second by Weed. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Excuse me. Next up, appoint state's attorney interim. As you all know, our current state's attorney, I'm sorry, we'll go back to 5. Discuss possible action on resolution 33-22. Sorry about that. All right, we'll open the floor for discussion. Ordinance 3322 was the moratorium that we passed last year. Do you want to read it, Lynn, or at least the heading?
Resolution 3322 is a resolution establishing a temporary moratorium on the issuance of conditional use permits and building permits on hazardous waste pipelines in Brown County, South Dakota.
All right, as you all know, we passed a resolution placing a moratorium on pipelines last year to give Brown County Planning and Zoning and the Planning and Zoning Board an opportunity to review our current ordinances and bring them up to date, which we, as you all know, we did. We held a public meeting on that prior to giving it final reading, discussed it at length, and the reason for the moratorium was exactly that, to allow time for us to thoroughly study it, make a decision on what's best we felt at the time for Brown County, based on the information we had. We did that last week, and the moratorium is still on. We did what we said we would do when we put the moratorium on, and that was thoroughly study it, research it, and provide the best information we could when we passed our ordinance. So that begs the question now, is it time to lift the moratorium? Because we did, again, what we said we were gonna do. I would open it up for any comments from the commission to begin with. And I guess I'll ask State's Attorney's Office, in your thoughts, we did our due diligence, what we said we were gonna do.
Current State's Attorney Ernest Thompson was satisfied with the work that we did, and that's our recommendation.
To lift the moratorium.
It's up to the board.
Right.
Correct.
Yep.
We've done all the research we can. We're satisfied that we're compliant with state and federal law at this point.
Does the moratorium do us any good? Because it doesn't sound like it does, because they're out surveying on your stuff. It's like they don't pay attention to it anyway.
Well, they definitely don't pay attention, just like when, you had the moratorium on. They don't change their maps anyway. But I think it's too soon to maybe take it off, because there's so much information and stuff still being, this is such a new thing. There's experiment science stuff. It's supposed to be factual stuff that to make decisions on. Maybe something comes out and think, man, it's even worse than we thought. Setback should be more. Myself, I would like to see a farm cultivation part of this in there too, for the depth of this thing, you know, just for us in the fields and everybody else around fields working over this thing. I feel you should keep it on myself.
What was the date that we put the moratorium on last year? Was it July?
July 19th.
July 19th.
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead, Dennis.
Say a word or
You
two.
bet.
I guess, thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. I guess, my question would be, did the moratorium specify specifically, that it was just about the setbacks and the depth, or was it a general moratorium for whatever issue might come up? And I guess, I would definitely encourage the commission to extend the moratorium at least to the 1st of January, especially in light of the fact that the 4-foot depth was shown to be not compliant with federal regulation, PHMSA, DOT, the Pipeline Safety Hazardous Act, and then the issue of depth of cultivation comes up. I think that, you know, if you extend the moratorium, you give the emergency management department an opportunity, and I guess I would question whether planning and zoning has had a conversation with emergency management, or whether or not the commission has had a specific conversation with the planning and zoning board. I mean, when you look at the committee or the board makeup, at least 4 or 5 of the planning and zoning commissioners are farmers. Have they had an opportunity to really look at what depth of cultivation might do, or actually do what should be done, and that's get the pipe in the ground at least 6 foot? I mean, on one hand, you've got a individual from Summit that comes in, talks about how safe this pipe is, and just goes on and on and on about safety. And really, you would think that if he was really concerned about safety, he would be helping the Planning and Zoning Commission get that pipe in the ground 6 foot, because he's concerned about depth and safety. But at the same time, we haven't had an opportunity, or we haven't given Planning and Zoning an opportunity to really look at it. And so I would encourage at least till the 1st of January to extend the moratorium. Let Planning and Zoning, the farmers that are directly involved, that put crops in the ground, let them have an opportunity to review this thing. And I guess I'm curious, I mean, if it's a fair question, why would we want to take it off? Has the commission been pressured by Summit Carbon Solutions to take it off now? I mean, what's happening? Why would you want to take it off if there's a deadline in 19th of July? Extend it. Don't back away from it. Don't soften it. Thank you.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
Thank you. I guess I personally have not had any phone calls either way, to either keep it on or lift it. So I'm just going by the advice of the state attorney's office that we've completed what we said we were going to do when we put the moratorium on. So we've lived up to our agreement. As far as what the Planning and Zoning Board has heard, Commissioner Gage, you sit on that. Do you feel that they've been given ample opportunity to maybe ask or get those questions answered?
Yeah, I was wondering if we could get Ross to elaborate a little more on the depth of cultivation and what our guidance was given from the state's attorney's office on both depth and that.
Well, people
As you
throw
find
level
it.
of cultivation around, and that term is taken from the federal regulations. So the Pipeline Safety Act lets the Secretary of Transportation to set minimum safety standards that apply to the design, installation, inspection, emergency plans and procedures, testing, construction, extension, operation, replacement, and maintenance of pipeline facilities. So what they did with that is they set cover over buried pipeline requirements. So the feds are regulating this already. So the ability of the county to step in and make their own regulations isn't going to fly. So we did look into that.
So the depth of cultivation was discussed, and
It's our opinion that it would be highly unlikely that if the county were to set a level of cultivation, depth requirement, that we would be able to defend it.
Wouldn't be able to.
It's unlikely that we
Right,
would.
right.
Our ability is the compatible use for the planning and zoning and potential setbacks from compatible uses. That's basically the authority that we have.
Correct.
Distances.
Okay. Mr. Shoneman, you had something to add?
Well, I thought I did. I guess I would encourage you not to lift the moratorium at this time. I guess I might respectfully disagree with the state's attorney, but I appreciate all the work you've done in passing the previous ordinance. I guess after Ross read that, I need to dig into it a little more. I really feel that the county commissioner of the planning and zoning can make a level of recommendation for cultivation. I know that's the opinion of the state's attorney, and we have to respect that at this point, or you guys do that as a commission. But I think as we work through that a little longer, or more in depth, I think it would be premature to pull the moratorium at this point. I guess I think I need to work on it, or the planning and zoning maybe needs another opinion. And I know there's lots of opinions out there, and you have to respect the state's attorney's opinion, but I also think it's behooving upon the planning and zoning to do a little more due diligence on that, and maybe they've dug into it on the level of cultivation. I know they went into the setback pretty extensive, but I think at this point it gives us some time to look at the level of cultivation, and pulling that moratorium would be premature at this time.
Okay. Commissioner Weiss?
Go ahead, sir. So my thoughts, considering where we're at with the totality of the situation, with the information that's available and the authority that I think we're pretty clear on that we have, with the setbacks that we've adopted, and the fact that the moratorium by statute is 1 year with the potential to extend it for another year. Without action, it would expire on July 19th of this year. I would be comfortable with taking no action at this time and revisiting the situation in 2 months to determine whether or not we want to let it expire or we want to extend it depending on what develops between now and then. I don't see any harm in doing that at this point. I'm glad that we went through the work that we did to get the setbacks that we have in place. I don't see any immediacy in the need to lift the moratorium at this time under those circumstances. Those are my thoughts.
We meet on the July 18th, which is 1 day before the year anniversary, so that would be probably the proper time to put it back on the agenda for further discussion or consideration.
I just had one quick
Go
thing,
ahead.
just to clarify. You know, you're fine, I'm sorry. Just to clarify though, our guidance on the depth of cultivation not only came from the state's attorneys, but we have the outside counsel, a finder from Richmond, sorry, from Richardson Law Office. So I mean, we've had a couple, and I mean, that's the guidance I know we went off of in planning and zoning was we went more with the setbacks and everything that, and not so much on the depth portion of it because of the guidance. I mean, I guess I'm gonna probably have a hard time disagreeing with these guys as
Right.
far, you know,
And I
I'm
think-
not a legal scholar either.
Yeah.
A lot of these rules aren't even made for a carbon pipeline yet. That's still in the process of going on. They're talking about gas pipelines, other pipelines. The feds are still having meetings to decide the regulations on a carbon pipeline. And that would be another reason to keep this moratorium on, till you know for sure what's gonna be the depth.
See, an interesting point here too is that on May 31st and June 1st, PHMSA is having a public comment session in Des Moines, Iowa, and it's open to the public. I mean, if you're interested, you can register by the 12th of, well, just in a few days here, and you can make written comment, or you can show up personally, and so I would totally agree that, wait until PHMSA has an opportunity to review what they've got in place now, and, you know, what Commissioner Weiss proposed is absolutely, you know, if you're not gonna extend it, at least let it go until the 19th of July, till termination, and then see how the outcome of the meeting in Des Moines is on PHMSA regulations.
Russ, do you have something else you wanted to add?
It's not a matter of whether they are regulating it as much as whether Congress delegated the Secretary of Transportation the authority to regulate it. So even if we were to set a level of cultivation because there is no federal regulation, we're still in the same boat, because the courts have said that when the federal government occupies the field, which means that they've taken over regulation in this area, even if they don't do anything, we still can't regulate.
But what if they change their deal? They don't have nothing of a high-pressure carbon pipeline out there. That's what they're saying, to just wait and see what PHMSA's gonna do.
And that's not my call, that's up to the board.
You know, that's why I feel they leave it on.
I agree, we have a moratorium in place, and the year anniversary is July 19th. I would suggest we postpone any action until on or about July 19th, the year anniversary, and see what if anything comes of the meetings at the end of this month, first part of June. Maybe by July 19th, we'll have some new updated information.
I just want to say, you know, thank you, Commissioners, for this moratorium and for the support. You know, we need to stand united. Unfortunately, you know, the example is very big, what's happening to him and these condemnation letters. You know, they've repeatedly said, let's work together, open communication, but that's not how this company is operating. And it's concerning. And what other things are going to come up? And so by leaving this moratorium or extending it, you have the option to investigate these things, because they're throwing a lot of things at us here, threats and other things that are concerning to landowners. So we appreciate that we need to stand united and see what happens here, because it's just kind of taking a very strange path that we're concerned about. So thank you that you're going to wait until July 19th, and then I would hope that you would extend the moratorium. Thank you.
One more quick comment. You know, in all respect for Ross and the State Attorney's Office, you know, there comes a point when you have to sometimes dig your heels in and go a little further. Put it in front of a judge. Let the public, let it be known that, I mean, the company has no problem creating all kinds of lawsuits and getting all kinds of things stirred up, trying to get it in front of federal judges and whatever they can possibly do. Why should the county or the people that are affected by this thing do anything less? Do whatever you can to stall the thing off. And yes, it's extra work, in all respect, for the State Attorney's Office.
No, it's not for us,
and they
have outside counsel, but this is the advice we're getting from them.
Well, and I don't care if it's outside counsel or if it's you, the fact of the matter is it creates extra work for you, and that's the way the system works. So, with that, thank you.
Okay. Well, we had it on the agenda, go ahead, Doug.
What's the worst thing if we put 6-foot depth cultivation in our ordinance? Tell us they can't do it?
Well, it goes to court.
Your entire ordinance could be thrown out.
That's the point. I don't think we can line up.
That was where I was going with that, is we have to be careful how far we push it, because all of a sudden they're saying you went overboard and you're not gonna follow your 1,500 feet, so there's a fine line to walk.
Well, that's the elephant in the room too, is the PUC could come in and usurp all of this as well. People need to be aware of that.
Great.
You know, so my question is, if you have a separate ordinance dealing with the level of cultivation, does that throw out the setback ordinance?
I don't know how you do that.
Yeah.
Maybe the new state's attorney will put his stamp on it. The current one doesn't want me doing that.
It doesn't mean you can't do it, he just doesn't want you to do it. I mean, that's the answer you're giving me.
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
Okay, that would be, so that's all I'm saying is, we have an ordinance in place. Is there something that prevents, which I'm fine with, can we create another ordinance that deals with level of cultivation that does not affect this ordinance, so it remains in place if we're comfortable? And I think that question needs to be answered. If we can take a run at it, I think we need to take a run at it. but I think we need, you know,
Like I said, we had it on the agenda for discussion of possible action. I don't think we have to take any action at all today. We've got a moratorium on the books in place till July 19th, so I don't think any motion or action is necessary today. We'll just leave the moratorium in place, put it back on the agenda for July 18th for further discussion, see where we're at then, and that way we'll have an opportunity to visit with the new state's attorney to see what, if any, opinion they have on how they want to proceed. They'll be the ones that'll have to defend it in court, so I would say we don't take any action today. Thank you all for your input and discussion. We'll leave the current moratorium in place until July 19th and deal with it on the 18th, or at least for discussion. Sound good to everybody? All right. Now we'll move on to appoint state's attorney interim. As you know, Ernest Thompson has submitted a letter of resignation effective this Friday. He will be moving on to greener pastures. We have hired Carly Winter, a former employee of the Brown County State's Attorney's Office, to replace Ernest. She will be starting sometime in July. I'm not sure if we've gotten a date certain, but with her current position, she had to give notice. We will be hiring Mark Anderson in the State's Attorney's Office, and I believe he comes on board next Monday, if I remember right. And our intent at this time is to appoint Mr. Anderson as the interim State's Attorney to replace Ernest when he leaves on Friday. That way we have a State's Attorney in place for the staff or any outside counsel, to give them someone to contact so that they can make decisions, with the understanding that Mr. Anderson will resign when Carly comes to town to be appointed as the new State's Attorney. So, and Mr. Anderson has agreed to all this with the understanding that he doesn't want to be State's Attorney. He will resign when Carly takes over. So at this point, I would entertain a motion to appoint former Judge Mark Anderson as the interim Brown County State's Attorney, and he will be sworn in on Friday when Ernest leaves his post.
Second.
There's a motion by Gage, second by Dennis. Is there any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Next up, Emergency Management Director Scott Mines to discuss disaster declaration of fireworks permits. Morning, Scott.
Tackle the disaster declaration first. My office has been working with local townships, municipalities, DERC and such to collect information from the spring flooding. As you know, we did have some areas that received significant amounts of water. The southeast corner of Brown County was probably the worst hit, but we have a few scattered all over, I guess. So with that, I bring a resolution to pass and request a declaration for emergency disaster to be passed on to the state and the governor's office to look at possibly even a presidential disaster declaration. We have, I believe it's 11 out of 44 townships that have reported qualifiable damage, I'll call it, along with the city of Columbia and Dirk and his crew out there. So right now we're sitting at about just $600,000 that's been claimed so far. I got a couple, I think 3 townships yet to report. So Brown County needs 170 to qualify for the state threshold, so we've surpassed that by quite a bit. So I would entertain, and Lynn should have a copy, but I do have another copy here to move forward with this resolution to get this information sent into Pier and see if we can get some financial help for our townships in the county.
So moved.
We have a motion by Weiss.
Second.
Second by Feldheim. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you, Scott.
Perfect, thank you. The second one is, Lynn had actually contacted me here a couple weeks ago. We're starting to get fireworks display requests for this year's July 4th. And there's been a new law change here recently that will allow the counties to put on some regulation for actual if dry conditions exist. So my request here today is to take this state law and just add it to our permit page so that the permittee, I guess, is understanding that this is possible, that come July and the dates that are called out in the law. I didn't bring enough. I brought a couple copies if you want to read it. It's pretty basic. It gives some dates when the county can pass a resolution to ban this, and or it goes off the grassland fire index just like our burn ban stuff does. So it'd be pretty much cut and dried, no other stuff. But I'd like to just, I guess, have permission to we'll add that to the our permitting page, I guess, and again, just for information that these people know when they're asking for a permit that there is a possibility we could shut them down.
And this would apply, I haven't read it, but I will. This applies to if someone applies for a permit.
This is for everybody, but I
All-
want to make
all
sure we
fireworks.
put it on the permit
Okay.
so that they know.
Okay.
So,
So it would be for the sale of fireworks as well?
not for the sale, for the
Okay.
discharge.
Okay. That was
Yeah.
my question.
Yeah.
Okay.
Basically regulating whether they can light them or not.
Correct. Yeah.
So does this impact that request, or you're asking for the ordinance to be, or the application to be changed?
I'm asking for that verbiage to be put on our application.
Okay. How does that impact the application you already have?
I don't think
That
it,
state South Dakota Codified Law 3437, it just doesn't have the specific 19, so I could send an addendum with that.
Okay.
And have it included, and then we'll get this updated.
this hasn't been signed yet, so I'm assuming if we talk to Mr. Campbell here that, and just make him aware that,
Okay.
this law is out there.
So we're not talking about approving that today? but
No.
We're talking about, okay.
That's up to Lynn, I guess, if she wants to it approved.
Yeah, I had asked Dwayne to,
Okay.
after you got this done, that we would do that, but we can,
Okay.
Yeah, I would entertain a motion adding this new South Dakota law verbiage to our permitting process for fireworks.
Move.
Motion by Weeks, second by Gage. Is there any further discussion? Everybody understands what we're doing? You'll add that to that document. That's what we're approving today. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
That's all I got.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Water's coming up, just a quick note, Jamestown, sent out a note last night, so, they're doubling their output, so, and rain in the forecast, so, keep our fingers crossed that we're not
Could be a wet couple weeks.
back into the flood mode, so.
All right.
Well, we
All
did
right.
we did get rid of the snow,
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, Scott. Scott.
so we don't need to approve that
no, I
application.
will.
Okay, all right, thanks. Just-
That came through that chat.
All right, next up, Chad Prey, discuss funding proposals for Riverbank on County Roads 13 and 400.
Morning.
Morning, Chad.
Well, I'm here again, I feel like I'm repeating myself, but I do have proposed bids to fix that riverbank from Gordy Schmidt and, Scott Hanlon.
Chat didn't come through.
It didn't come through. Well, Gordy's proposed bid was 15.7. That is to pull the dirt up off the north side, put it on the bank, and then come back and level it off. Scott's bid is 33,000 to come in and place the concrete after that's done. And we're looking for some assistance to help get that done, which I think is very important because there's a lot of infrastructure to the north of that we've got to protect. So, with that, I have filled out an application to Jim Rivers. I don't know when that meeting is, the 11th? Wednesday?
Thursday, excuse me.
Thursday. So, and I've sent that paperwork with the bids to them for some assistance. And I think the county and them, between them, we'll see what they come up with.
So ballpark 48,000, is
Yeah.
what I'm hearing? Okay.
Yep. I put 50 on that 'cause I didn't have the final one from Gordy, but I'll give that
That's
to you.
close enough, yeah,
Yeah.
that's fine, okay.
Okay.
Good, thank you.
And does that quote include the cost of riprap?
Yes.
Okay.
You know, and that could cheapen up if the county's got some they wanna get rid of, once we get that dike done. I mean, if they got a place they wanna dump some, you know, they can, you know, that's Scott's bid. He's got 100 loads of concrete there, and I don't know if it's gonna take that, but
Okay, but I think Dirk is here. I had visited with Dirk about this, and I'm not gonna speak for him. We'll ask him to step in. Morning, Dirk.
Bring him with you, don't let him down.
He's just back up. We have Dirk and Kendall from the Highway Department. Dirk, I had visited with you about this, about the possibility that the county might have some material that we would, make an in-kind donation to this project. I mean, we're probably not gonna write a check, but if we have some in-kind material that we could provide at their expense to pick up and haul, is that still an option?
Yeah, they can take whatever concrete they want out of the yard. You know, we hauled, it was 40 grand. You had asked me what that
Yeah.
other deal cost. It was 40 grand plus, because we don't have a dollar value on the concrete because it's donated kinda.
right.
104 loads of concrete. So the dollar amount was 40,000 and it was 104 side dump loads. So 2,500.
So when you guys looked at that yesterday, what do you think it'd take?
I don't know.
Well, compared to the project that we did by the west of the gates,
I don't know.
'cause I don't think it's that long. It's not as long of an area, but.
No, I don't, it's definitely not as long, but I didn't look at it at all from that standpoint. And that's about, it's like, that bank is 30 inches higher than the wall is, than the top of the wall is.
Mhm.
So you're gonna have a little more that's gonna slough, you're gonna lose.
Right.
When you dump it in there. But, I don't.
Oh, it
have
is,
that
'cause,
stuff.
yeah, 'cause it's washed out.
Yeah, it's just a sheer drop right now.
Yeah.
But no, I don't have a guess on that. I didn't really look at it from that standpoint.
How many loads of concrete were hauled on the drainage ditch from Putney Slough to the gates?
That was last year.
Yeah.
You got any guess on
We
that?
just did the top, I mean, we didn't do the whole thing, we just,
Yeah.
shoot, I'm gonna say
How many?
maybe 30.
Like 30?
So,
Like 30.
that's what I'm talking about protecting. There's a lot of work that's been done down there already, and if that goes back, because there's no concrete on the other side of that drainage ditch. So, that's my proposal to you guys. From there, I don't know if you have any other questions for me.
Well, I think from a county standpoint, we have a commitment from the Highway Department to donate or contribute the concrete at your expense to haul and load.
At my expense to haul and load?
Right. The county will
Well,
provide
we
the
can
material.
load them.
You can load them?
We could load them.
Okay.
Yeah, because we'd rather do that than have another loader in the backyard
Sure.
that somebody
Okay.
else. So we would load them, and they could have whatever's in the yard. But I will say, we cleaned that whole pile out, so all we got in there right now, depending on the timing of this, we don't have a heck of a lot right now.
Well, there's nothing
But there's
that can
a
be
lot
done
of
right
it.
now.
So maybe we'll end up with more, I mean, as the year goes on, but.
It's gonna have to be this fall, won't it?
Yeah, that river's gonna have to go down,
Yeah,
because right now, on the north
substantially.
side, it's all muck. We can't pull anything up. You know, but, well, I guess I don't understand why it would be at my expense to haul the concrete. To
And-
protect your guys' infrastructure.
I understand that, but there's a lot of stretches, there's a lot of Jim River that goes through the state, the
I
county.
understand that, Dwayne.
And if we start down that road, I think that would be starting down a road that we'd never be able to afford to stop.
Well-
That would lead to us helping any and every project that would have these same characteristics. And I, for one, don't think that's a road the county can afford.
Do you have
to go
another
down.
one, for instance, that protects that kind of infrastructure and that kind of money?
I don't right now, but if we do it once, I guarantee
I
you
feel
they'll
that-
come up.
The county's somewhat obligated there. How much money do you have into the gates? You know, you probably got $500,000 down there, don't you?
And the gates, in my opinion, are a totally different situation.
Well, if this bank When it breaks, that's where that water's going. It's gonna go right back to them gates. And that dike.
I'm just speaking as one commissioner, and I don't think that's the road we want to go down to financially help, with the exception of providing excess material to a project. I don't think we can financially start down that road, but
You already
I'm
did,
one
though,
commissioner.
when you did that stretch west of the gates. You already did.
I believe we just provided material, didn't we?
You're talking what we riprap.
Yes.
Yeah. Again, as we touched on the last time you were here, our only concern is to keep the Jim River from going north.
Correct.
And, I mean,
That's what I'm trying to do.
you know,
The
but it's
same
not,
aspect.
if you can prove to me, Chad, that it'll overtop 13, and that you'll have enough head on that water going over there, because if your wall failed right now, let's just say that failed right now, and what is there, 30 inches difference?
Yeah.
So our Jim's about 30 inches higher than the Crow Creek is right
Yeah.
now. If, let's say that whole thing was just gone,
Yep.
that water's gonna go over, and if it gets high enough to spill, it'll go over the railroad tracks and go back into the Crow Creek.
And
Right.
take out that ditch,
See, but right now, if it does
Yeah.
it, it's gonna fill up the Crow Creek.
and it's
There's
gonna go
30
up on top of the dam.
There's 30 inches,
Yep.
and it'll fill up to wherever that's gonna go,
you-
whatever the gym site is, okay?
Right.
That's if there's no water over there. It's gonna go over there, it's gonna spill into the Crow
It's gonna
Creek.
go right over 400. Just like
Oh,
it
yeah.
has. It'll
Yeah.
go right over 400, which
Yeah,
is a
so-
county road.
400.
And the river's going up, we just heard Scott say that, Jamestown just opened up.
Right.
You know, they're putting out 1,600 CFM now, so the water's not gonna go down. And that wind is gonna raise holy hell on that bank like it already has. And it's gonna go north. And you're trying to keep the water from going north.
Correct. But
That's my point.
it's gonna fill in the channel, and it'll fill up until it
So-
equalizes. If there's no water, if the gates are open and it happens, then nothing's gonna happen. It's just gonna spill out there, and
Well, if the gates are open, the water's obviously higher on the north side than it is on the south side.
correct, so it isn't gonna go over there.
Right.
So when the
But
gates are lower, it's gonna spill back into the channel.
Yeah, but, and you're just gonna want all that water to sit there on top of the gates, on your banks, that you got all that money stuck into, and just beat the shit out of it.
I know, and I can stand here and talk about hypotheticals.
Well, we
all up
could
and down
too, I'm just
whatever.
trying to prevent the thing
So,
from
and
happening.
this is why I got out of this, because I'm not gonna argue with you about it. Take it up with the commission, and that's fine.
Well, I am.
And Ray Larson over at Columbia will be in to make a request. We do have another one, he's already talked to Kendall about it.
With a similar situation.
Similar situation, I can't speak, we haven't dug into it yet, because we're gonna wait and see what happens here before we go and see what the impact is.
Because we've had the water over the gates.
Yeah. Yep.
Gates have been underwater, Brown County 18 has been underwater, and I remember when Brown County 13 was underwater. I mean, there was water everywhere out there.
The bridge right now on 13 is the high spot down there.
Right.
Bridge on 13 is a foot higher
What am I looking at here?
than the top of the wall.
Right.
So this is the elevations at the wall,
Okay,
and this is the elevations on this is the bridge.
Putney Slough Bridge?
Yep, and then this is the north end up on the Sullivan grade. That
Oh.
doesn't matter, that's just for something
Where did
else
18
that
go
we did.
underwater at on this map?
From this, where's Yorkville at?
Right here.
Where's is this 18?
This is the, yeah, 18's right here.
East of the gates, all the way to 13, it was
From
underwater.
13 to the
Last
top of
time.
that hill.
Far south
The
bridge.
hill where you're
Also
trying to go there.
substantial.
Yeah, the whole thing goes
Okay.
under.
And that's just it, we're trying to control what we can control within a certain level. And then once it gets beyond a certain level, all bets are off. And it's the same way all across the county, it's the
Yeah.
same thing with all the channels we got running north to south that are parallel. They can be separate for 6 miles, and once the
Yep.
water reaches a certain level, then they blend and it just all goes together, so.
It's like the Elm and the Mog.
Which that's going up too, I heard the Elm is coming up.
I haven't looked at that yet, probably.
It's spring.
Rain
Thoughts?
2 inches.
Thoughts of the commission?
Well, it seems like the argument here, I don't know, this map's kind of small to see, but the argument that I'm hearing is you're saying this water will come up and go out here and get into
It's,
the
it'll
new
all
Crow.
back up to 13, yes. And Well, did you guys look at everything that was done down here yesterday? Yes,
Yeah, we were there. Yeah.
And that was done on this ditch, right? 400, yes, it's gonna come back into here, it's gonna, to 13, all the way to 400 to the gates. It'll just
Are
cover that all.
are you saying it'll go north of 13?
I'm not, it depends upon Mother Nature, you know, and what, yes, it very well could.
Because these guys are saying no, but
It depends.
there's only...
13 is coming up, or the Putney Slough is coming up, not at a rapid rate. There's quite a bit of room in there yet, but...
You get 4-inch rain in half of Marshall County
Yes.
and it'll change.
I mean, that area takes
never
on
happened
so
before.
many acres.
You taking the over or the under on that?
I don't know yet.
Take your time frame.
Well, I think the big issue is what James are gonna do for funding.
Right, and...
You know, that would help to make a lot of decisions, we got a lot of ifs in
Well,
between until we
that's right,
know.
that's a conversation that we had last time I was here, you know.
You know, that's Wednesday night, you ought to have a decision, will they have a decision on Thursday?
Thursday.
Would it help?
Our funding level would be to 50%. If it's approved, I would give it a better than a chance of getting approved at that level.
Is it broken down in there what the cost of the riprap is?
Yes.
So if we subtract that...
Well, actually, loading the concrete was 4,000, and trucking was 21,000. Placing it was 8,000. So it's not really broken down the cost of the concrete. It's just loading it, trucking it, because he's getting the concrete from the city of Groton and bringing it out.
So either way, the material...
Because I already
is
have the
provided.
material, you know, I mean, I'm looking for funding assistance. The material comes from Groton.
Oh, okay. So you don't necessarily even need the concrete that we have.
Well, if the county wants, I shouldn't say that I need it, no. But if it would help assisting the project, I'll take whatever I can get. You know, because that's why I'm here. Because I think that the county's got some interest to help with this project, just in what you got in infrastructure down there. So, I'm not here to argue with anybody, because water makes a lot of enemies, but it makes sense. And I feel that there's some obligation on the county's part with what you have done already.
Commissioners, any thoughts? I would be willing to accept Dirk's contribution of the riprap material and load it, so that would save you a little bit of loading costs, the way it sounds from your quote, $4,000.
Yeah.
And then the cost of the material, which you already have. But if we can help with the material and the loading, I personally think that would be the
Well, I don't
county's
have
contribution.
side dumps, so...
So you've already got a cost for hauling in there, right?
Yep, that's 21,000.
So that you already have the loading, you could decrease the quote by a little bit by eliminating the loading costs, because Dirk said he would do that. So then you would rely on James River to provide half the remainder. You take 4,000, about 44, so you get 22 out of them, potentially, if it was 50%. That would leave 22.
Well, you leave that number in, because it's an in-kind, but it is a...
Okay.
So it was done in 2 bids, neither one of those can do the work all at one time, or?
Well, we wanna do this bid first, Gordy's bid, the first stage of it, pulling the dirt up, because it's gonna have to sit there and dry before we can finish. I don't think anybody wants to drive down over the side dump the way it is right now.
You have to be careful no matter where you go right now.
But, I mean, it's too narrow, and there's too much of an undercut on the bank. So that needs to be widened, so we can get riprap on there. So the first stage would be this 15.7, and then we would come in with riprap.
Wishes of the commission. Thoughts? We've already been told that if, whatever, depending on the action we take here, we'll probably have another request for a similar project near Columbia.
They're willing to do the material in the loading, and that's, you know, part of the crux of this is bank stabilization kind of stuff is not, we've decided, I think appropriately, it's not part of the highway department's responsibility or budget. They're willing to do that part of it because the material's in the yard. So if we're gonna participate, it would come out of commissioner's contingency budget, because we don't have a budget item for this kind of thing either.
Right.
I guess for me, I'm more in line with Dwayne on this as far as donating the riprap for it. I mean, I think we start down the road of fixing the riverbank, there's a lot of riverbanks that can qualify on that, and I don't know how we would do it. And I mean, 18, when we were down there, I mean, it's not a road you would put there in the future. I mean, if it was not there, that's a low, I mean, the whole thing's a low spot, so I mean, you're trying to fix a giant bowl.
I've seen it underwater. I mean, we
Well,
all
yeah,
have.
I'm not
We
saying
all
it's not
have.
gonna go underwater, but I mean, I don't know if you can, I mean, I'm not saying, I know that the thing is eating out there, but that's, I mean, where the curve in the river is, I mean, it's gonna, I mean, I don't know if it's gonna rush up as far as I don't know, I'll go with the concrete and riprap. I think that's about the involvement I think we can have.
Providing the material and providing the loading of the material. Other thoughts? Like Commissioner Wheat said, if we would do anything financially, it would come out of the commission contingency budget. That's only so big too, so depending on the cost of the next request and then the next request, could go pretty quickly.
Hanlon's bid was 33, 21 was trucking, 4,000 was
Loading concrete.
As I said,
10,000 placing order concrete. Okay.
yeah. That 4,000, if we're willing to donate that as an in-kind, that can still be in the equation for James River to consider, because it is part of the project.
So is the concrete from Groton,
Yes.
that's free?
Yes, there's no charge for that.
Okay.
You know, and I have local neighbors that have piles of concrete that wanna get it out of there, but it's just the equipment. You need a track roll and a truck, and, you know, I don't have that. So, even if you wanted, I don't know if the county could, got a track hoe that can come down and place it to dump it, that would cheapen it up, you know? I mean, anything. Unless you want to wait until something gets approved, if it gets approved on Thursday, you know, do you table this until we have an answer from them? I mean, I would think that the county could match what Jim River does.
In a perfect world, we could, but again, it's coming out of the commission contingency budget, and that only goes so far.
Yep.
Because the next request could be double what this one is. I have no idea what that one's gonna entail.
Yeah, I don't either. I don't even know what they're dealing with up there.
21,000 in trucking, is that indicating how many loads?
100.
100 loads?
Yeah. And I don't think it's gonna be that much, but if it took 100 loads to do that stretch west of the gates, that's a longer stretch than what we're dealing with here. But, like he said, we could lose some, because it's so straight down, but we have a plan of taking some debris and trees that are there, placing them down so the concrete can't slide. You know, that's kind of our plan of attack right now, so we're not losing everything, all the material, but that takes time.
At this point, it looks like our commitment would be for the material and the loading. And depending on how things develop, that may or may not change, but...
And we'd have to visit with Dirk to see if there would be a possibility of taking a piece of equipment up there to assist with the placement once it was dumped, if that was an option.
That's an option.
I can't speak for Dirk, but if that would be an option, another in-kind contribution, that would,
I guess
would be a possibility.
I'd be comfortable today, you know, doing the material and the loading, and then if we table other discussions for now, if we decided a later date that we want to do more, we can come back to it, but I think for today, it's probably appropriate to do what we've discussed.
Commit to the material and the loading
for today,
and then postpone a decision depending on the James River contribution, and see what this next rain event does. You know, we may end up having a whole different outlook by the end of next week. If Jamestown has a big release, plus we get another 2-3 inches of rain, we could be looking at a whole different situation depending on what that does.
That's right.
Whether or not we decide to do more or not to do more probably doesn't need to be made today.
Exactly.
Is kind of what I'm thinking.
I think Doug's point is, you know, once you start writing checks, then you establish a precedent. I recall 25 years ago, we were pressed really hard to go back and consider the county taking responsibility for cleaning out the Putney Slough Channel until it went underwater, and then it became a moot point, but...
Well, I'm fine with that. We can't do anything right now, so...
But Jim River has different resources and a little bit different focus as opposed to just county infrastructure and the rest of that stuff, so, we'll see what happens on Thursday, but I would think it's probably gonna get a pretty favorable consideration, so.
Okay.
Which will be a big help, I think.
All right.
All right.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Thanks
All
for
right,
coming in.
thanks,
Thanks,
Chad.
Chad.
We'll be in touch.
Sounds good.
Thank you. I think we should make a motion to contribute the material and the loading of the material to the Prairie project and postpone any other action until we know more what the James River Water Development District's going to do and what the conditions are as the summer comes along here.
I can move that.
Okay, motion by Dennert.
Sorry.
Second by Weiss. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Before we move on to Dirk, Mark Anderson has joined us. Mark has been appointed the interim state's attorney for Brown County. Congratulations.
Thank you. And just a few technical hoops to make sure we follow the right procedure, but obviously Ernest will stay on board until Friday. I'll be sworn in when he's ready to leave.
Correct.
I will come in to be sworn in as a deputy before that. As soon as I've heard from the State Bar that my fees have been received by them, that you've graciously paid, so thank you for that, because I was on an inactive status, maintaining my licensure, but I wasn't actively practicing, so that's the difference. And so I just called before I walked over here to check and see if they've received it yet. They said, no, hasn't come yet. We get the mail this afternoon. So I'll check back, and Lynn, whenever that comes in, I'll come over to be sworn in for the deputy status. Thank you for the opportunity to help serve the public once again, adding to my years of public service, and understanding that this is a stopgap measure, that I'm here temporarily, and I understand that as well in terms of this role, but look forward to continuing to serve the county after that.
Very good.
I appreciate your support.
And once you're sworn in on Friday, I would start looking through pipeline regulations.
I've heard that might be something of interest that I want to look at.
A little light reading for the weekend.
You might be asked a couple things about that in the interim here.
Very good. It's time
All right.
to read.
And the route. Because it's not far from your house.
Very
All right,
good.
thank you.
you.
Welcome
Thank you.
aboard. Thanks for stopping by. All right, now, Dirk Rogers, Highway Superintendent, to discuss load limit.
Morning.
Hi. Beautiful day today, huh?
It is. Got some soft roads out there?
Yeah, I'm not super excited about taking them off, but as soon as people get in the field, they're gonna go in the field anyway. And we had a tender truck fall through Road 5 up there on the road project. And then it got progressively worse at the various attempts to get it out. But anyway, having said all that, I think we'll go ahead and let them expire tonight, and we'll take the signs down in the morning on everything except Road 5, west of 281. I would like to leave them on there for, I'm gonna say a couple weeks. Just, the thing is just pretty bad up there. You know, I was even thinking about putting 9 on it too, but the parts of 9 that got, or 9, you know, west of 281, well, now then you cut off two east-west roads, and the stuff that's failing on 9 is the bad part of it, you know, where the state did the detour paving, you know, that's kinda held up pretty decent. So, I mean, it's not like it's gonna be a lot more on that one, so in lieu of, if we can leave 5 posted, we'll do 9. And the other thing is, I mean, if the only thing I was worried about 100% was, you know, trying to pick the right time for the, you know, I would say we'd leave them on till the 1st of June, and I'm not even being facetious. I mean, I would, but I also know the reality of what our drivers are economically around here, that it isn't always the most idealistic decision that you can wait for. And I think we'll just, we put them on early, we survived through a little bit of a early soft thing, and we left them on, and so, I'm not gonna say it's 100% for the roads, but I think when you look at the big picture, I'm a little reluctant, as you can tell, but I would recommend that we take them off everything except Road 5 west of 281, and I'm not sure how this works now, if your resolution will take off everything else and extend those for 2 weeks from today, and then we'll revisit it. If things improve remarkably on it in the next 2 weeks, we'll just take the signs down, but, we have some challenges up there, and so.
Southeast part of the county is doing okay?
It's okay, and we don't have a lot of asphalt down there, and that, you know, that's another thing. Actually, for the first time, a gentleman stopped by today, and asked me about leaving the load, well, wishing that a certain gravel road had the load limits on it, you know, like it had been posted, and we've kinda, that's also been a trade-off with the milling, is that if you're gonna mill the road to gravel, at least one consolation prize of it is that you didn't have load limits on in the spring if it was worth hauling on, so, but I was a little surprised. It must be soft enough that you are getting a few people that do comment that maybe, you know, yeah, or look at putting them on gravel more, you know? But, and then when I talk to other counties, their perspective's a little twisty too, because 2/3 of our system is asphalt. So when we have load limits on, we have roughly 2/3 of the system that you can't use. Because other counties are like, oh no, we'll be fine. Well, yeah, you got 70 miles of your 500 are posted. It's a little different program, you know. So anyway, having said all that, I would really like if we could we'll take them off everything else. Technically, I suppose at midnight tonight, but we'll take the signs down in the morning. Do you hear that, Kendall? And, and then we'll leave them on Road 5 for 2 weeks, and if it gets way better between now and then, we'll pull them off, but otherwise, I'll be back in 2 weeks and see if we're gonna extend them again.
With, you know, with or without, people need to use their own best discretion. I think by and large, they're pretty good with that, because they're trying to move product, but they also know they recommend that's the ones they're supposed to be driving on, and they're kind of screwing themselves if they're not careful.
And what's funny is that has changed. I've kind of, a little bit about how things have evolved on what the county participates in and doesn't participate in, but that's one thing where people, in some times when maybe we weren't the most Johnny on the spot to get in there after the road got wrecked, and then they're thinking, well, geez, you know, that 3 days of hauling I got out of that deal, and then the road got wrecked, and 3.5 years later, the county came by and fixed it, you know. There's definitely more of an awareness there. The problem you run into, and I'm not a fan of, I like to either have them all on or have them all off, because a lot of guys farm all over the place, right? But when you get into the southwest part of the county right now, there's 4 potholes on Road 23 way out west, and the rest of that's high and dry, and it's really hard when those guys are calling and going, you know, but I don't want to get into something where, okay, well, the odd number roads are posted and the even number roads aren't, you know, and so.
Like regulations for fishing or water.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Accountant.
Right. If it wasn't such a charged topic, I'd say, or pipeline, but we won't. Worry about that.
Or pipeline.
Just gotta stir the pot.
No.
All right.
So anyway, that's my recommendation with that.
All right, so based on that conversation, I would entertain a motion to lift the load limits in Brown County with the exception of Brown County 5 from 281 west.
For 2 weeks.
For 2 weeks.
You have something?
Move. Second.
Okay, motion by Feldheim, second by Gage. Any further discussion or question? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Everything else good?
It's not too bad. You know, the FEMA thing, we have all the usual suspects. So we have 4 locations. You got State Line, you got 16B below the Scandinavian Church, Rondell Grade, Road 25. And there's beautiful scenic areas, but it's the same places that go under every time.
All crossing.
All crossing. I was gonna get to that. I was gonna get to that one. I'm not even sure what the point of this is, but I just want to say a couple things about specifically those 4 locations, because as far as the stuff for FEMA, you know, ER does our federal aid stuff, so that stuff doesn't matter. We're only talking about those 4 things as far as FEMA goes. The State Line, it's not gonna be that expensive. You guys all know what the Hull Crossing does. And the Hull Crossing, the last 2 times, we just did it. Okay, we just went and fixed it. It wasn't a disaster declaration. 3 times ago, the 3rd time ago that we fixed it, it was a FEMA deal. And I can't remember what year that was. It's really hard not to be cynical about 16B and Road 25, because they both each have an open account on them right now, because FEMA's never come back after the last event. And somewhere down the road, I gotta figure out how to have FEMA change their definition of a flood. Because to them, a flood comes in, wipes your stuff out, the water goes away, and you come in and you put it back together. Well, here, the water comes in floods.
Turns us into the Everglades.
Then we hang out for about 2 years, and then, and FEMA comes out, and they even gave us instructions that we followed when the road did finally come out of water after 400 and whatever many days that was. And they're like, okay, call this number, and we call them, okay, we'll call you back, and that's where we are. And that's been, now fortunately for us, that's a common occurrence. They're not super expensive things to repair. But I am going into this with a little bit of, you know, this is getting to be silly, because 16B and 25, so 2 of the 4 places we're gonna submit, they haven't come from the last event yet. State Line shouldn't be too bad, and Hull Crossing will be 35,000, whatever. So, that's my only comments about that stuff. Other than that, we'll, out of all the things we got going, Road 16 paving is the first thing that'll probably actually happen. That's a bigger deal. We do have a bridge going up at Frederick that's north and east of Frederick, and they're working on that. That's getting close to being done. But our Road 5 project's kinda on hold for a while, and the Elm Lake project, I'm sorry, Doug, I know that's a big one in your neck of the woods, but,
Not that far north.
it's just too muddy up there, and which is, it'll give us a little time to deal with some of the fences. It's not so bad, but so that stuff is all pending, and everybody's got it on their docket. And in the case of Elm Lake, they even have some equipment up there, but it's far too muddy right now to start doing anything.
Need some sunshine, that's a week away.
Little wind. But
you're praying for wind.
I'm praying for anything right now. I want it to dry up. But, no, other than that, it's not, we're trying to stockpile a little bit. We did start patching with asphalt. Jensen's is out patching starting yesterday, which is also a factor. You can't really take load limits off until you can get hot mix. That's another thing you want to be kind of cautious about. Otherwise, if you did make a bad call and you blow a bunch of stuff up, you got to be able to fix it.
I see on the HR report, you lost a crew member. You have a confidence in being able to hire somebody back that's qualified?
Yeah, there was, he was okay. There were some things that he couldn't physically do. And I don't even know if I'm supposed to say that, but, it was a bad fit for him.
Okay.
And that guy, you know, I have a ongoing posting for guys.
Sure.
Compared to a lot of places and a lot of other counties, we're not into desperation mode yet.
Sure.
We have an opening, and if the right guys walk in the door, you know, we'll hire them, but I'm not, you know, we had a little bit of a conversation about that yesterday. We're not anywhere near where I would say I'm in a panic mode. I have had a couple requests, and I haven't taken the time to dig into it and think about it economically a little bit, but the different iterations of the Dakota Build Scholarship, and I don't know what the commission as a whole's appetite is for that, but there's, like, if there was a mechanic, if there was a kid that I knew his bloodlines kinda, and he was interested in being a mechanic, for me, that's a pretty easy sell to come in and tell you guys, hey, why don't we participate in this, we'll contribute some money, we'll lock a contract, so he's gotta stay here X number of years. When my old man ran the state school, that's how they got all their occupational therapists and doctors and stuff. They did a lot of that stuff and had moderate levels of success. You need to have, there's gotta be some tight stuff in the contract to make sure that you don't train a guy and 3 months later he's gone to work over at Carl's place or something, you know.
Sure.
But the request that I've gotten for that, and I have a guy I'm actually talking with, it's not a mechanic, it's, they wanna go through the heavy equipment operator program. You know, most of the guy, and this is a blanket statement, where'd you learn equipment? From the farm, and then you went to the mine, and you just kind of, you know, guys like that, you know. And most of our guys at the highway department learned their operation or trucking through organic means, meaning that they, you know, picked it up somewhere else.
Right.
So I don't have any idea what that would be like, but what's your guys' opinion on that in general? Would the county be interested in paying for part of someone's education, and then if we could lock them down? And this is at the VOTEC school, so it isn't a $10 million deal, but, and nobody's gotta commit so that everybody else comes in and asks you the same question, but I mean, just...
Well, like you said, if you have the details, you know, to where you're actually gonna be able to reap the benefits of helping provide, you know, some support for somebody's education in those areas, growing your own is absolutely the way to go if you can.
Yep.
No question about it.
I agree, and I would be a strong proponent for assisting with
some kind of
technical
program.
type.
Right. Definitely need to get more of that.
I think it depends a lot on the individual.
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He's a city
Yeah.
slicker and wants to be running heavy equipment, probably has no experience, but if he's a farm boy that's been farming for 15 years with his dad, he's probably got a little idea how things work.
If they've been a throw man for 15 years, they're usually not looking for a job at the highway department. But
5 years maybe.
But no, but you make I mean,
Yeah.
that's almost, summer helps the same conversation. You used to be able to snag a kid from a farmer, but you're a farm kid, you know, that knew it
The basics.
up and down, you know, stuff like that.
Right.
So, well, I might try to put something together. So, kinda on that vein, we're not really like desperate where we're not being able to accomplish tasks. And there's a lot of contractors we can hire if we get to that point. That's not a huge deal. But I would rather kinda think about this now. You know, a lot of counties, the way that they're doing some of their challenges is they have an in-house, and I'm not anywhere near, we don't have the right personnel for this. Don't take that personal, retired almost guy. But the,
Almost.
Look how tan he is. But, some of them are doing that in-house.
What happens when you're in the sun?
I get red.
And, we were over at a district meeting, and that guy from Grant County had asked you about training their CDL drivers, what they were doing to find CDL, people. And there's 2 counties that have a full-blown program where they train them in-house. And in Pennington County, they have the cost to the individual down to like $100. Is all it is out of his pocket, where, you know, depending on how you go to accomplish that task, it's like $3,000 to $5,000 in some goofy places. But Beetle County and Rapid City, Pennington right now have it set up, and they're all licensed. If they can't train, they can't go out and train somebody else, but they can train in-house their own people, and and it seems to be working for them.
So we're not reinventing the wheel, and it is being proactive, which is the right thing to be doing.
Yeah, I'd rather, you know, and we'll see You know, I don't want 18.
Right. But
If you want your workforce a little stratified too, you know, you don't want 10 guys that are, you know.
Right.
So, okay.
All right.
Boy, that one covered
Question
all.
for you. Edge of Westport, where the two trailers are on the south side, there's culverts there. One of them is plugged solid with mud and dirt.
Edge of Westport on the west.
Right on 10 going in, just before you hit the
Oh,
shed.
coming down,
Yeah, it's on the south of the shed. There's two trailers sitting on the west side.
Okay, yeah.
There's a culvert there, and that's pretty much, looks to me like it's plugged. They called me the other day and said it's holding water, and I said, well...
You know what that is?
State, must be the state culvert, cement one.
Oh, he's got a
It's got
cement.
a head wall.
Yeah, it's got a head cement on it, and then the culvert goes through that cement block.
It's right at the intersection. Oh, up on top, you're saying, out by the highway?
No, it's
right
gonna
on
be
10.
between the shed and, 9.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Look at it.
Yeah.
Probably beach ball stuff in it, I don't know.
No, that was all mud.
Oh, okay.
Or critters.
Critters.
Critters, yeah.
All right, well,
All right, thank you.
Have a beautiful day.
Okay, Kendall.
Okay, Ben?
It's rain.
How are you? Everything all right?
All right, that brings us to the end of our regular agenda items. Now onto the consent calendar.
Approval of the minutes
I
for
don't
May
care, you
2nd,
do it.
general meeting.
Move.
Motion by Weiss,
Second.
second by Gage. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
County equalization for May 2nd.
Move. Second.
Motion by Weiss, second by Dennert. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
And consolidated equalization for May 2nd.
Move.
Motion by Gage, second by Dennert. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Claims and payroll.
Move.
Motion by Gage, second by Feldheim. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
HR report.
Move.
Motion by Feldheim, second by Weiss. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Claim assignment.
Move.
Motion by Dennert, second by Weiss. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Leases.
Move.
Second.
Motion by Feldheim, second by Weiss. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Auditor's report of accounts for March of 2023.
Move.
Motion by Gage, second by Weiss. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Travel request.
Move. Second.
Motion by Dennert, second by Feldheim. I see that the cost for the spring workshop is double for auditors.
We're going both days. Patty's
Oh,
only going
one day.
Mary Ann's only going one day.
Okay, that was the difference, okay. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
New Gatsby rules, that's a day's worth right
Yeah.
there.
That's what I told Wendy, I said she could do a whole day and Ron Horton could do a whole day and
No.
still not have enough time.
It's nuts.
Fair contract.
Move.
Motion by Weiss,
Second.
second by Gage. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Landfill tonnage report for April.
Move. Second.
By Feldheim, second by Dennert. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Any other business to come before the Brown County Commission this morning? We have two requests for executive session, both for personnel. Ross, do you have any legal?
He's on the phone over there.
Okay. Might be some legal, we'll let you know.
Yeah.
Stay well.
See you, Dennis, thank you.
See you, Carl.
Entertain a motion to go into executive session.
Move. Second.
Motion by Weiss, second by Gage, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay, motion carries, we are in exec. All right, lights back on, we're back in session, out of exec. No action as a result. Is there anything else to come before the Brown County Commission this morning? I was asked to run this by you guys, and I told them I would at least run it by you today, and then maybe try and pitch it and sell it more in the future. But, the fair manager is also coordinating through the Brown County Fair Foundation. We were approached, the fair was approached about having that Dwarfinator event last Saturday night at the polling building. Mike, you were there. I mean, we had 450 attendees. It was an interesting event. The foundation bought the liquor license, we provided the concessions, we took care of that as a fundraiser for the foundation. They've been approached about having another event, and I don't know exactly who was gonna be bringing it, but Dina Carter was gonna be coming to the Civic Center over here, and that was canceled because of the weather. They wanna reschedule specifically to the Holem building sometime in the future. Probably next March, the way it looks. So, the fair manager asked if we would consider as a commission that any new events that take place at the fairgrounds, that the foundation would be given the opportunity to be considered as the concessionaire for those new events. They don't want to, we as a foundation don't want to take away from the Boys and Girls Club and the hockey, because we've got a long-standing relationship with both of them, but these would be for any new events out of the ordinary, like hockey, wings, the fair, so on. The advantage in the foundation's opinion would be that we would be raising money for the foundation that would go directly to benefit the much-needed improvements at the fairgrounds. So they were wondering if any of the commissioners would have a problem with the foundation taking on those type of events. It's not gonna cost the county anything, it's just a matter of the foundation would reap the benefits of the income from doing those and working those events.
Well, if they've got the volunteers that they can marshal to do it, it does nothing but benefit the grounds and its improvement going forward.
So the whole purpose behind the foundation is to raise money to improve the fairgrounds and the fair itself, so. I told them I would check and see if there's any objections to that, or if it would be viewed as a conflict of interest or anything, but the purpose of the foundation is to improve the fairgrounds, so. I'll let them know that I at least discussed it with you. If there's nothing else, Lynn, anything come up while we were out?
Nope.
Okay.
Move to adjourn.
Okay, motion by Pellantime, second by Weiss to adjourn, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.